Hello, V. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, how can you not do great? It's October in Canada and I'm still in a t-shirt.
It has been pretty warm lately. We've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's great. So, hey, this is great. I wanted to, we wanted to talk about a couple of subjects today. So I guess we can get right into it. Oh, that's true. Eric is going to kind of edit this video, right? It's not live.
Yeah.
So, so that's great. We're using a new platform today. What is it called? Do you know? Do I know?
Yeah, it's called the Squadcast.
Squadcast. So far, I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
Yeah. It's pretty good. And I mean, it's our first remote podcast as well, you and I. So that's pretty exciting.
It's not our first remote podcast, is
Well,
it?
first in a long time. First in a long time, I should
Okay.
say.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we did the Zoom one. I think I might have been in the office and you were at home, or I don't remember.
Yeah, it was April or May 2020. So it's definitely been a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's been a while. I kind of got a little fed up of the remote podcasts, but new platforms like this make it a little bit more interesting, I find. It has like a new look, higher quality, right?
Mhm.
What do you think? Are you getting bored with the Zoom podcast, the remote podcast, instead of seeing people in the same office or same room?
I actually like this format. I mean, I don't mind either or. I mean, for us, I mean, I think it's a really nice reflection of who we've become, who Simply PHP has become. And I mean, I really like this style. So, but I mean, it's also good to have like, podcasts that are, people that are face to face. But this is kind of where the
Hmm.
world is kind of going. So, no, I really enjoyed this format. I think it's pretty cool.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you feel about Simply PHP going fully remote? I'm pretty sure you like it, right?
I do. I really do. It's been an adjustment because I mean, for me, I mean, I was going once a week still. So although I was
Hmm.
spending 4 days out of 5 at home, now it's fairly recent since September that we're fully remote, 5 days of the week at home.
Hmm.
I really, really do like it. I really, really do like it, but I'm so glad that I continued going to the office once a week because now I look back at it and I'm like, that was fun. That was good to kind of have that human connection. But now I'm kind of really living what the rest of the rest of the company lived, what they've been living for
Yeah.
the past 2 years, right? So now I'm fully immersed in their world, and I must say that I bloody love it. So I wouldn't change it. So no, I really, 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 really like it. And
You mean you don't miss like fighting traffic and burning gas and overpaying for parking and overpaying for lunch and breathing stale office air. You don't miss that?
no, I don't. I must say that I don't miss taking the public transport in the morning, being stressed out, leaving 1 hour before starting work. I start fairly early, so I had to leave home at like 6
Hmm.
a.m. Get my lunch done, or if I don't forget my lunch, as you said, just having to go out and get some lunch, which is like pretty expensive
20 bucks.
nowadays. And I mean,
It's 20 bucks.
yeah,
It's 20
and
bucks to have
being
lunch now. A sandwich is 20 bucks.
yeah, I know. And sharing, I mean, I've never been a big fan of public transport, but that's just it's just my thing. And I mean, not sharing public transport with millions of people, I really don't miss
Yeah.
that part either. So, or yeah, as you
Yeah.
said, sometimes I was taking the car. Yeah, and now I feel like the traffic is so much worse than before. So no,
Well,
it's
you know why the traffic is worse, is
no,
because people are no longer taking they're no longer
yeah,
taking public transit, right? So I read a headline that they are 30% occupied compared to pre-COVID numbers. So they've lost 70% of their clients because a lot of people are just taking their cars. Either staying home, so that's one thing, but the people who are
yeah,
going to the office are taking their cars now because they're like, you know what, I don't want to
yeah,
be in public transit like a sardine, getting COVID, you know? So I don't know.
yeah,
I think, well, obviously that's the reason why the traffic now is just out of this world crazy. Where we are anyway, right? We're right in the city
yeah,
in Montreal, so it's a nightmare. And that's another thing. It opens up your horizons. You're going to be able to perhaps move into the country life a little bit, move out of the city potentially. So, hey, I talk to clients every week. I was speaking to someone yesterday that used to live in downtown Philly, I believe.
hmm,
Philly? Yeah, it must be. And moved 2 hours away and loving life, working even harder, not having to fight traffic every day. So there's definitely some advantages.
oh yeah, and yeah, I think the stress that has been removed from a lot of people that are not going to the office anymore is just, I don't even know how to describe it. I have become very much less anxious than I was before, just because of like not having to
Mm,
plan in a certain ways and being exposed to all of the environment stressors. It's been so
yeah.
positive for not only myself but so many other people that I have been speaking to about working remotely. So no, I'm definitely grateful. It's definitely an adjustment. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean,
Hmm.
I love at 5 a.m., going to the gym, walking my dog, and kind of just having my coffee and just starting my work day with no stressors. It's fantastic. I wouldn't
Yeah.
exchange that for the world.
Have you found, because now look, okay, it's 2022. This is such an old topic, but for us, it's a little bit fresh. And have you found like the developers that you're managing that were coming to the office up to a month ago? They wanted to, I think they were coming in the office 1 or 2 times a week, but now since we closed the office, they are working full time remote. Do you find that their stress level has gotten a little bit lower, or have you seen any differences or changes in them?
I haven't, to be completely transparent, I haven't noticed any uh, changes, but I would assume, because I mean, some of our developers as well have kids and things like that. So it's kind of like,
Hmm.
I would assume that it would be it's a good change for them, but I know that some people like myself that were going to the office were was also to kind of just have that human connection, right? So I
Yeah.
know that now we're fully remote, so and then we're 40 hours heads down, in front of a computer doing our work. So that's definitely an adjustment. You don't have like those coffee chat breaks or those water cooler conversations and things like that. So it's definitely an
Hmm.
adjustment, especially if you're alone working at home. So but when you take a step back and look at all of the positives, um I think I think it has a very positive impact on a lot of the people, but I mean, I can't speak for them, but I would assume so.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about water cooler conversations. By the way, you can get human connection elsewhere, right? You can get human
Yeah.
connection at the gym, at the grocery store, at the coffee shop, all of that stuff. Even introverts. Uh, but it's funny we've began having those water cooler chats on a weekly basis. Raf and I. As you probably know, because I think you were part of the strategic planning of them. and the decision to do them, and they've been pretty cool. So basically, what we do is we grab, I think maybe five or six people, and they come into a Zoom room with Raf and I, and we don't really talk about business. We talk about, well, of course, number one, the weather. Very important to talk about the weather because we're all over the country, right? It's raining, it's
Yeah.
snowing, all of this stuff. But just non-business stuff. And you know what? We're learning a lot about our people. They're learning a lot about us too, because a lot of the employees, when they get hired, Raf and I are no longer a part of that interview process, so they've never met us. And it's important that they do. It's important that they feel they could ask us anything they want. And it also allows other people to get to know their colleagues, right? People they've never met before. And I think we do that weekly, and we change up the groups as well, so people can meet other people. It's really been good, and that has been our kind of solution to the missing water cooler conversation because those are important, I feel.
Yeah, they are important. I really do agree with you. We've also started doing those other water coolers with, without Raf and Tony as well. And kind of, we just have like
Yeah,
icebreaker
those are more fun. I heard those are more fun.
so yeah, no, it's super important, like because since we're all remote, we need to bring everyone to get together because at Simply PHP we collaborate. We found our success in collaboration. Therefore, yeah, it's important to know your colleague, and you may be based out of BC and then working with someone out of Nova Scotia, and then kind of just
Hmm.
getting that connection. And it's awesome if you're in BC and you want to one day travel Nova Scotia, you have a couch that you can stay on. So it's
Oh
awesome. It's
yeah, that's true.
but for personal as well, it's great.
Hey, Simply PHP couch surfing.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. V. Leave it to you to come up with that. That's a good one. So hey, this is a good segue. I wanted to talk about. I think there's two of our most popular videos. Were I think we did it a couple of years ago. We did them a couple of years ago, definitely pre-COVID, um, where we were speaking about what do you do. There was two. So what do you do when your developer abandons you? So if you're not a part of the Simply PHP family, I was trying to give advice to people who were not working with us. What do you do when your developer abandons you? And the second video was, um, what can you do if your developer is holding you hostage, blackmailing you?
Mhm.
So those were two videos that we did, and I was trying to give advice to people who were not working with us about what to do in those types of situations, and more importantly, how to prevent those types of situations. So, but we were talking the other day, and it still happens that people call us and they're stuck in these situations. So I wanted to kind of talk about the developer abandonment uh, scenario
Yeah.
because it does come up a lot. A lot of times people will reach out to us. They'll go to our website, go to our contact page, or give us a call and say, "Hey, this is my situation. I'm halfway through the project," or a lot of times it's 90% through the project. It's a popular
Yep.
percentage for some reason.
Yep.
And my developer has jumped ship, right?
Mhm.
And they're looking for help. This is a scenario. Sometimes we can help them, sometimes we can't. So I wanted to kind of go over what we do in that type of scenario. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. And
Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar?
I was gonna say it does sound very familiar because it does happen way more than any people would think. I was just reflecting on that earlier, and it does happen once every 2 weeks that we'll get an email with someone
Ooh.
saying that they have their developer is MIA, or they are 90% done, and their developer is missing in action, or they fear that they could leave and that the development has stuck for some reason. They're still in touch with them, but there's no further progress that's being made on the project. So
Mm.
of course, every single cases are different, but there's just always the same string that somehow the project is blocked. So it does create a lot of fear, right? Because it's your as a business owner, or it is your digital asset, right? And we all want to complete projects, and this is your worst fear when you only have one developer that knows your code really well, that has worked on the project, and that they would disappear. What do you do if you're a
Hmm.
non-technical person? You're not the one that's going to be completing this project. um
Yeah.
so
Well, let me ask you something. What would you say the ratio is? So let's say you get 10 people in that scenario.
mhm.
What would you say the percentage of those people that we could actually help? Or sometimes it's like, listen, we can't really help. You're going to have to start over. Or you've blown all of your budget on this one developer. Would you say off the cuff, what percentage of those people can we actually help?
I would say, it's a really good
I
question.
would I would think it's
Because,
low. From my experience, I would think it's low.
well, it
And then
depends,
after,
right?
I'm going to
As I
ask
said,
you how we. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, you go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say then my follow-up question is going to be, how do we prevent that at Simply PHP? How do we prevent um, a developer from not only abandoning, but what do we do so that it's not a nightmare if someone does disappear or get hit by a car or anything like that, which has happened in the
Yeah.
past, by the way. Shout out to Nick, who's still with us, got hit by a car.
Shout out to
Um,
Nick. Alive and
so
well.
yeah, I think he's actually on vacation right now.
Yes.
So, uh, so he's good. He recovered, but that was a nightmare. He got hit by a car, and anyway, this was back like 10 years ago. We didn't have the um, setup that we have now because we learned from that scenario. But I would think the percentage of people that reach out to us with that problem, I would think maybe 50-50, 50% of the people we can help and 50% we can't. What do you think?
Tony, you read my mind. That's what I was going to say.
Hmm.
Earlier I said that every single case is different, but I would say most of the time we have been able to help the person out. Perhaps not taking on the project, but providing guidance to this individual. And if we were not able to take on the project, to give them instructions as to how to recover from this.
Hmm. I think.
Um,
Is it all about credentials? Like number one, 101, like you, as a business owner, we hope that you actually have the credentials and you own your code base and you have all that stuff, or else we can't
that's
really help,
exactly.
right?
And it's blowing my mind that we're having this conversation right now, because we're currently dealing with a business owner right now that is kind of feeling hostage, that his developers are
Hmm.
taking him hostage. So right now we're going through this process.
Oh,
My first question when this situation was brought up to me um, was, does this person have access to their Git repository, their source control, the source of
and do they?
truth? So
I'm
we're
afraid.
waiting to hear back. So fingers crossed.
Oh, okay.
But it's not only having access to the code base, it's important to be the owner of the code base,
Yeah.
because if you are the owner, you're the one that can give the permissions to whoever you want. If you are
Yeah, it's
not the
great.
owner, if you are not the owner of the Git repository, you could be
Hmm.
kicked out. Your access could be
Yeah.
blocked. So to own your code base, you absolutely must own your Git repository and have admin access to your servers as well. Because
Yeah.
with those two root accesses, you can give permissions and remove permissions to whoever has access to the code that you no longer want to for them to have access to it. So that's
Yeah, you have the keys to the business, and you can invite people on, you could kick people out. But if it's the other way around and the developer has that access, then they could just kick you out, and that's when the hold you hostage type of thing, type of
yeah,
scenario comes in.
and it's
So
very
if
sorry.
no, go ahead, V. Sorry, there's a little echo, so if I interrupt you, please, it's not intentional.
Okay, thank you. So it's a little bit misleading as well, and I think we need to put this message in
Mm.
the world too. Is you need to consider your code base as if it's your store, right?
Yeah,
You wouldn't give keys to whoever you want, right? And you have the master key to the lock. You have the master code to your alarm system. You're
yeah,
the owner of the store. And I know that there's a bit of like misconception as well. You start a project, you're non-technical, you don't really know what you're getting into. You absolutely need to have ownership of your code base and then the server access. This is super important, and we can't stress this enough. So the more
yeah.
people, business owners that hear this message, I hope that we will be receiving less emails of people in this situation.
Yeah, because it's always, we're always empathetic to people that are stuck in the other scenario. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully starting over is not the end of the world.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the end of the business. Like they're just, okay, I'm not going to do this project anymore. So just to keep going in the spirit of, can we help someone in that scenario if they have the right ownership, if they have the right credentials, that's great. So that's step one. And then I believe that step two is that we get one of our engineers to take a look under the hood. That's the analogy I always use. Take a look under the hood to see if everything was built following industry standards, like a little bare minimum of quality. And then we decide, okay, yes, we can work on this project, or we say, no, I'm sorry, we can't. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we will always be looking for like code styling best practices, making sure we will never take on a project where we are not 110% sure that we can be successful on the project. Because if we
Okay.
don't have this assurance, we cannot provide this assurance to the client, and it's not going to be comfortable for the client, and it's not going to be comfortable for us. So we have 100% sure we need to be 100% sure that we can take on the project. Um,
Okay. Now,
yes.
what percentage of the time do we walk away? So now the person comes in, 50% of the people we can't help for whatever reason. It could be credentials, it could be budget. So now so five people have gotten past the first door.
Hmm.
Um, Now, what percentage of those people can we not help because their code is just a mess, and it's like it's spaghetti code. If we touch something, everything's going to break. Everyone's going to be unhappy. Like,
It
what do
is
you think it is?
such an intricate question because every single project is different. However, I would probably say, just to be safe, maybe 50-50 or 60-40 that we,
Really?
because most of the time
Wow.
we we really, because the thing is we have a very big heart and we really want to help anyone that's in trouble. So
Hmm.
although code does not necessarily follow best practice the same way as we would, it's all a matter of fact of seeing what we can do and what we can work with. In some
Yeah,
cases,
you could always put a little bit of extra effort in there to try and help.
that's exactly right. If it's not following best practices, though, it always ends up just later on in the project to blow us to blow it up in
Yeah.
our face. But it's all a matter of fact of setting expectations with the client as well, and kind of letting
So,
them know that this could happen in the future.
so you're saying that 60% of the code that we look at when we look under the hood does not meet the standards that we can help, or 60% does?
I
I
would
thought it was
say
always
60%.
80.
Yeah, I would say 60% we can help and 40% we
60% we can. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And I would say maybe before it was even 40 we cannot help and 40 we can help and 60 we cannot. But I would
Okay.
say the more and more when we get people in this situation, or not even in this situation, the people really start having better code base. So
Oh, yeah, nice. Things are getting
that's
better.
yeah, yeah. Because of technologies and all of that, and a lot of people have really started to take ownership of their digital assets, of their
Hmm.
online stores. So you can really see it in the quality of the code that we receive. So I would say most of the time now, we 6 time out of 10 we can help.
Okay.
um yeah, and I hope that this number will increase as well in the future.
Beautiful. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting.
Hmm.
What does Simply PHP do in order to prevent our clients from being in these nightmare scenarios? Example, you've got 3 developers on a project right now, or we can talk about having 1 developer on a project right now. If this person disappears tomorrow morning, does not come into work, no sign of them for whatever reason, what fail safes do we have in place as a company so that the client is minimally impacted?
Yeah, so we kind of have a code review processes now where everyone in the company, not everyone, but some developers are somewhat acquainted with the code base. We are
Okay,
also
wait,
really working.
hang on. One
Yes.
second, please. Sorry to interrupt you. So you're saying that if I am a client and I have 1 developer at Simply PHP that's working for me, there's other developers in the company that are kind of aware of what's going on through the
Yeah,
code review process that we have in place?
yeah, that's right. So
Sweet.
developers are kind of like paired up with other developers as well, just to because we kind of consider a code base to kind of be everyone's code base, everyone's project. So in the event that, and everyone wants to contribute to improve the quality of the code as well, if that's even an opportunity, everyone kind of
Hmm.
just knows what's going, like the code styling. Maybe I would be honest and say that the developer would not have a very deep understanding as the same develop as the developer that is working on the project, but the
Of
developer
course.
will have a high level understanding of what's going on in the code. So if there's a
Hmm.
developer disappearing tomorrow, well, what do we
Okay.
do? Okay, so we're going to have a meeting. Who is going to replace this developer? Project managers, account managers, developers are getting involved, and we're kind of just having a common knowledge transfer. Of course, the client will be advised right away because we are
Yeah.
super transparent with our clients. And then we would let them know of what's going on and what the next step are going to be. But there's a lot of
Mhm.
planning that's happening as to, okay, where are we at, where are we going, what is the next task, where and where can we pick up the tools back and start working again. So there's a lot of planning with
Mm.
project managers and system administrators. So there's a team behind every single project. So if something unexpected happens, definitely gonna have a sit down meeting, plan,
Hmm.
strategize how we can recover from a developer disappearing.
Okay, now the magic question is, what about credentials? Does the developer have the keys on him? Now, I know that the client, since they're with Simply PHP, the client has admin control and ownership over everything. But is there any credentials that are floating around that we don't have, or how do we do that?
So no credentials do float around. I want to make that very clear. Even in our internal conversations on Slack, we
Woo!
private
Okay.
link to share. passwords cannot be shared in text, in emails, or even via Slack. It's a little bit painful, but that's the price to pay for security.
Well,
Security
we
is
have an
painful.
encrypted, you have an encrypted private bin system that you share credentials with, right? So
Exactly
that's the
right.
sharing part. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a link. You drop your credentials in it. You click send. There's a link that's generated, and then you can share those credentials
Cool.
with someone else
Are they
with this
stored
link.
there too? Are they stored
No,
there?
you can only access the link once, and then after it's no longer accessible.
Okay, so
But with that,
as a
yeah.
sorry, one follow-up question. So as a company, um, there is a fail-safe where all credentials are actually stored,
Yes.
so that we don't have the possibility of someone getting hit by a car. Shout out to Nick again.
Yep.
We don't have the possibility of someone getting hit by a car and us losing credentials somehow.
No, so
Not
that's
that that's
exactly.
the most important thing. First, let's see the person's okay, just to clarify. But
Well,
I'm just using Nick as an example. What about the credentials? Are they okay? We'll call the ambulance later. Where's the password? No, I'm sorry, but there's a good place to store, right?
Yeah, yeah. We have a vault that only developers or stakeholders that are involved to with the project that has access to that vault. Same thing with the repo. If you have to do with the repository, you will have access to it. If you don't, you're not going to have access to it.
Oh,
So
yes.
those are, yeah. So those are the security steps that that we use. And in the event that someone would disappear, we have those credentials that are secured safely in our vault.
Oh, nice.
Now,
Can I ask who we're using? And we'll probably link, if it's on YouTube or wherever, we'll probably link. We don't have any affiliations, but it's a very, very useful tool, I'm sure. Is that, what is it called? 3Password or something like that?
yeah, it's called One Password.
Oh, 1Password. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was a number. All right. So 1Password. Awesome. Hey, we'll also link those two videos that I was referring to where the developer holds you hostage or the developer disappears.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay. So if I'm Simply PHP's client, I will have a vault that's within Simply PHP's infrastructure where all of the uh, additional players have their uh, credentials, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So that's what
Cool.
we use. So, I mean, now there's another issue that most most platforms that you want to have access to now have two-factor authentication. So that's a little bit
Hmm.
painful. Usually, that's linked to the business owner's email address or phone number, but that's
Ooh.
totally fine. It's just a matter of fact of connecting with the client and make sure that the developer that's going to be taking over the project can access whatever they need to access. So, but that's never usually
Oh.
very hard to get.
Oh, interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm a developer and I need to access the vault on 1Password, the business owner gets a two-factor authentication, or is that only when they set it up?
No, so for example, like so I'm thinking of like Google Admin Console, for example. If the business owner will have access to the Google Admin Console,
Hmm.
and for example, maybe he only has one email address linked to it, and the
Oh,
developer
okay.
access the Google Admin Console, it will send a two-factor authentication to the business owner. The business owner will have to share the code, the passcode that was shared from Google Admin Console and share it with us. And then after the developer can
Nice.
access
Okay.
the
Okay,
account.
cool.
But no, you don't need a 2FA to access 1Password.
Okay. Whew, that would have been, that probably
So
would have been annoying.
it's painful, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So if a developer does this, let's just recap a little bit because we got a little bit off track there. My fault. So if a developer disappears, that's simply PHP. We try and minimize the impact to the client as much as possible. And by the way, I think this happens very extremely rarely,
Hmm.
but we always prepare for the worst. So there are other developers that are involved in the code review process that will have knowledge of
Hmm.
the disappeared developer's project.
Yeah.
So that helps the transition. The credentials are also not a problem because we have a secure vault in 1Password, link in the description. And then it's just a matter of finding a new developer, which we normally have one or two developers that are free on the bench in the company. That's kind of our standard operating procedure. We try to keep at least one or two people available in the event that we have a new client that needs to start right away, or we have an existing client that wants to augment their team a little bit, whether it's permanently or temporarily. So we find hopefully one of these awesome people and get them to replace the disappeared person. And that sounds pretty smooth. It sounds like this system has been built on 12 or 13 years of pain.
Yeah. But this is what's working, the best with our operations. But then again, I think that not keeping anything secret from the client kind of removes that stress as well. Of
Yeah.
course, if the business owner finds that out, of course they're going to be worried, because that that could impact their project. But we are working on minimizing that, the delays and the negative impact that it could happen. So it could
Yeah.
sorry. So we're really trying to have like a very seamless transition from one developer to another developer. So yeah, and we try to do it as stress free as we can. Planning and kind of saying, setting expectations with the client too. So it's a collaborative process that we're following,
Hmm.
which is has been very successful. But as you
I
said,
think.
it hasn't happened often in the 3 years that I
hmm.
have been in the company. So that's really good.
I think that we get a lot of practice with it anyway when we have people going on vacation, when we have resignations, when we have dismissals.
Yeah.
So we kind of have practice in the transition, although it's normally a 2 week notice period or a 3 week notice period. So it's kind of the same transition, except that it's a lot less stressful and it's planned out. But yeah,
Yeah.
I could echo what you just said. The disappearance with our people, it's never happened in 13 years. However, we have had, the accident, getting hit by a car, um, that was actually the genesis of this whole system that we created. Because when it happened, I think it was 10 years ago, we did not have 1Password. We did not have anyone else that had knowledge of what that person was doing. So this is what we have now. And yeah, let's knock on wood that, we don't have any problems like that or anyone have any problems like that in the future. However, we're prepared because we plan properly
We
and
do
anything
plan.
else that starts with a P. We plan properly and we're prepared. Okay, Polly?
We can do it.
Well, that's great. Hey, that's great, V. Listen, it was great chatting with you, and I think this is a great topic, and I think we'll have fun digging up those. We'll have fun digging up those old videos. I think it was pre-COVID, and we were doing a lot of elaborate videos back then with Kyler, and I think I was walking in the snow. I fell down in the snow, and it was really weird. Uh, But yeah, we're gonna have fun digging up those old videos. So we had an old video about when your developer abandons you. We had another video, um, when your developer is blackmailing you. Uh, so yeah, these are going to be fun to watch, and it's great speaking with you today. We're gonna have to start doing these more often, V. You know, we got set up with this new platform. What's the name of the platform again?
It's called Squadcast.
Squadcast. So
Yeah.
we're set up with Squadcast. It seems to be working really well. So we're going to have to do this more often. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe. Please make a comment about what type of, content you'd like to see in the future, what type of subjects. There's so many, software development subjects out there. If you're on LinkedIn, make sure you give us a follow. I think we're over 15,000 followers on LinkedIn now. Our videos get a lot of traction on LinkedIn. So we're hoping they help out. And V, thank you again. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tony. Bye.
Bye.